All right. How's everybody doing tonight? Want to welcome Mr. Mike DeCarlo for joining us tonight. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing fine, Ken. Thank you for having me on. And the quiet little lady next to me is my wife Tracy, who is you gonna keep me company. Okay. Uh, anyway, um, very briefly for whoever's tuned in, my wife's quite incapacitated, as you can tell. So at this time of the night, I don't have any nursing help. So that's why I'm not able to do actual live sketches. But I prepared a lot of stuff, and I know Ken has it to show. And I mean, I can physically show it. I mean, there's no reason for me to lie about having done it. Um, so, Ken, enough of my blathering. If you want to proceed.
Yeah, no. Listen, we make accommodations. We understand, it's a unique situation, and just joining us is fine. You don't need to do the live sketches. We have plenty of stuff to offer. We are also going to open up a commission list for him. Um, so we will be taking orders for things. I'll put that up later. And then you guys can have at it. If you want anything from Mr. DeCarlo, he will get to it eventually. We're not gonna, we'll talk about time frames later. Obviously, he is a caregiver, so his time is available when it's available. So when we do the commission list, it'll take as long as it takes.
I I make up for having some issues with time by by working 7 days a week,
Mhm.
and I'm usually up by 5:30 or 6 in the morning, so I can get going. And I probably don't work any fewer hours than I did 25 years ago. I just have to spread them in different ways than I used to.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely want to talk to you about your career. So obviously, the easiest question is, how did you begin in the comic book industry?
Well, strangely enough, 43 years ago, I started off as a sports cartoonist.
Okay.
Uh, that went okay for about a year and a half. Then I visited my brother who was doing graduate work at Penn State, and I went to their art department. This was very late 1978 or so, and I've always been kind of interested in politics, so I did some political cartoons for them. When I came back to Connecticut, a then girlfriend of mine before I met Tracy said, "Oh, I read where these comic artists in Stratford are running a school, and Mike, you should look into it." I said, "Yeah, okay." Turns out it was run by Dick Giordano and Frank McLaughlin, and there was about 2 dozen of us, and I guess their intention was to pick the guy who would best become their new assistant.
Mhm.
So it was I don't know, 2 or 3 month course. And at the end, Dick said, "How would you like to become my assistant?" I said, "Sure." I was just to turn 22. And Stratford was not far from where I lived. So for about the next year and a half, Dick, who was a splendid patient teacher, taught me the ropes and everything, discipline, professionalism. And then around late 1980, he says, "I think you've come far enough. I'm going to bring you up to DC. You can meet Joe Orlando, who was the art director And Joe looked at my stuff and he offered me work right away, which I took, of course. And that's basically how it started. I got to meet and work with legends of the comic book industry because early 1981 is now a long time ago. So there were guys like Gil Kane and John
Mhm.
Mead and Ross Andrew and all those people who were still actively working. And Gene Colan, Don Heck. Well, I even worked with Steve Ditko.
Wow.
Um, so the '80s was a fun time. It was a good time, and I was fortunate enough to get asked if I wanted to, because I guess Jim Aparo had kind of gotten sick of inking his own stuff. Um, so I was asked, "Do you want to ink Batman?" This was mid to late 1985, and Batman had always been my favorite DC character. I mean, I liked Superman too,
Mm.
but I just always liked Batman. I always thought that was the best DC had. So they paired me up with Jim, and I was fortunate enough to hit it just in the mid to late part of the '80s when Batman kind of took off. And I kind of built whatever reputation I had as Jim Squire, uh, and it was a good run. And I did some work at Marvel. Matter of fact, Renee, who was my booking and art agent, was an editor up there, and she got me work. And I worked with a few other people. Mike Rockwitz, who's still a good friend of mine.
Mm.
That's how I got to work on Thor for a while, Iron Man, She-Hulk, Conan the Barbarian, the never to be forgotten NFL Super Pro.
I
Uh,
remember that book.
and then I kind of gravitated towards animation work, which I always liked to do. They offered me a lot of that at DC. They started licensing a lot of animation stuff, and I enjoyed that. Uh, and their special projects department um, really liked my finished product back then. So, video game covers and mugs and T-shirts and stuff probably has my imprimatur on it from back then. And then I did many, many years of work with The Simpsons. I did work for Archie. Um,
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because I work with Bill Morrison. He said he did a lot of stuff for Bongo.
yeah, Bill is a good guy. He's a very talented artist, and I think he was kind of instrumental in helping me ensconce my way into Bongo, and that
Mm.
was a nice run.
Yeah.
Jeez, I must have done 150 issues of The Simpsons,
He said you did a lot.
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He told me that.
Um, I was sorry to see that whole line kind of fall under, but it was time. Deep down, I know inking is a skill I have, but deep down, I'm not really an inker. I'm putting it in hand quotes per se. I mean, my thrill is starting out with a blank page. And until I kind of just wiped that slate clean a few years ago, that was just never going to happen.
Mhm.
Um, so now I'm happy to do private projects, little book covers, tons of commissions, sketches, anything anybody likes. I did. 35 years of comics and deadlines and editors and working these hands into carpal tunnel
Mhm.
disaster. Uh, so now I'm a little more in control of my own destiny, which I'm happy with.
Yeah, yeah, that seems
Anytime
like.
you want to tell me to shut up, just tell me to shut up.
No, 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 please, please. That's why you're on the show, so we could hear the stories.
All right. Well, I promised a few people I would shave for tonight so that they could let their children watch. So, haven't I shaved tonight?
Well, we are going to do kind of a claim kind of thing. Normally, what I do on the show, Mike, is I do a live claim, which means I put up a banner that says one claim available for Mike DeCarlo, and the first person to claim it, or sometimes I'll do a wheel spin if there's a lot of people who want claims, and then whoever gets chosen gets to pick the sketch. We're not doing that tonight. We're offering a finished art, but I still want to do like a claim kind of way. So I'm going to show a piece of art right now because you were talking about the blank page. I think it's a good segue to show a piece. I'm going to sprinkle them in as we're talking
Yeah,
through the
no,
night.
you. This is your show. You
Yeah.
handle it, whatever, however way you'd like.
So first thing I want to do is I want to show this piece, and if anybody wants to claim it, you can claim it, and if not, I'm going to post them up on the 4C page tomorrow. But this one right here, we'll start off with a Batman. And this piece is 165. So if anybody wants to claim it, you can put claim in there, and then you get it. What size is this, Mike?
Roughly 9 by 12.
Okay.
I wanted to kind of show maybe a couple of minutes after Batman realized Todd was dead, how he just kind of paused and reflected on it. You can see his corpse there in the background, and he's holding part of his cape. And
Oh, wow.
I just it was Batman in a really pensive, deep thought, and that's why I did that piece.
Now there's a story behind it. Yeah, that's a great piece. And of course, I want to talk about that Death in the Family run. But if anybody wants this, 165, you can claim it tonight, or I'll put it up on the page tomorrow. Here's somebody has a question for you. Well, give me 1 second. Let me pull this down. Um, Somebody wants to know, what was your reaction when the fan votes came in to kill Robin?
Andy Mackey, I recognize that name. What was my reaction? My reaction was that Jim and I had already done a page where he lived and a page where he died. So DC was quite prepared. Matter of fact, I've even recreated the "He's Alive" page for people. But I when it's your job and your job is to draw, you kind of are you're removed from the emotion of it in a way. So, however the fans felt was fine with me. It was a brutal page with the Joker and that crowbar, uh, which I've unfortunately had to. People love showing the Joker wielding that bloody crowbar. I think I've been requested to draw that about 40 times.
Yeah.
But no reaction other than, if you're an actor in a movie and somebody tells you to do a certain scene, you do it. So
Did you have both scenarios already done before the fan vote, or was it something that they waited for until after the fan vote came in?
no, they warned us in advance. They said, look, we're gonna put it up to a vote.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna do he lives and he dies page. So they paid us for both, so I didn't care. And then the New York Daily News in 1989 did a full page of Batman holding the Robin corpse. That's when I lived in Connecticut, and I used to buy the Daily News for sports. And then thumbing through it, and I see a full page, and I ran to Tracy. I said, "Oh my God, they did a whole page." I said, "Look." And we were uh, thoroughly amazed that it got that kind of attention. I guess killing off a major character was still a fairly new thing back then, but
Yeah.
to get full coverage, a full page splash in the New York Daily News was something pretty amazing at the time.
Yeah.
Was that really 32 years ago? Amazing.
Yeah. What did you think when you got the script and that was an option that was going to be in there?
You just go with it, you know. It's you just go with it. It's your job, you know. If
Yeah.
you know, it was it was one of the few times I was disturbed, and when that woman tricked him and she turns and lights a cigarette and just, you know, that was pretty brutal. That was great writing and pretty startling for the comic world back then. You know,
Yeah.
Batman was the biggest selling comic book in America for about 2 or 3 years. my, my cat trying to join in. You're not getting fed now, pal. Yeah, Batman was selling well over 400,000 copies a month for quite a while.
Oh wow. They don't get those kind of numbers anymore.
If you get 1/10 now, that's considered a good sale.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It gets changed a lot in the years that have gone by. Uh,
Well, that was, I guess they say the 80s was the last of the quote unquote golden age of comics before video games and the internet and
mhm.
social media took over young people's lives. So, anyway, I was glad to be part of it, that last golden decade. And, you know, I met everybody from Jack Kirby to Stan Lee to Steve Ditko, John Romita. They
Mm.
were all wonderful guys. Don Heck, Dick Ayers, all nice guys. Guys with surprisingly small egos, considering what they had achieved.
Hmm.
Very small egos.
Yeah.
Very easy to talk to. The first time I met John Romita, he was, I think, the art director, and I had always been a big idol. He was one of my idols as a young fellow in the mid to late '60s. And he just sat me down next to him, and we just chatted like old friends for like an hour and a half. I'll never forget how nice he was. Just you know, some guy he's never met before, but we hooked up right away. He was a real gentleman. You know,
Excellent.
that whole generation. You know, Julie Schwartz, all those guys. They were great guys. They had a real perspective. You know, it wasn't the ego; it was the product.
Mhm.
You know, and that suited me because that was always how I felt. It wasn't me; it was the character.
Mhm.
So I gave everything I could. And if people didn't like what I did, well, I gave it my best shot.
Yeah.
If they liked what I did, so much the better. But that changed uh, with a surprisingly great and nice guy, Todd McFarlane. He's a great guy,
Mhm.
but he kind of changed the, and Frank Miller to an extent too. But they changed the psychology of things, you know. Then it became who was working on the book rather than what the character was.
Mm.
Um, and I think that's when guys like me started getting kind of phased out because that really wasn't me, you know.
Right.
Um,
Right.
Anyway, that was a hell of a long answer to a very simple question, wasn't
It was great though. It was great though. I do want to show another piece. Speaking of Robin in a way, here we got a beautiful Nightwing piece. Is this 11 by 17?
it? That one is, yes.
Yeah. So here's an 11 by 17 piece. This one is 185. If anyone wants to claim that, you can claim it, and I will also put it up on the 4C page tomorrow.
I'm also willing, if the purchaser is interested, I'm willing to ink it since it's since it's my own pencils. I don't mind inking it. Um, but it's, I mean, what you see is what's there. I mean, I'm very definitive with my pencils, probably from all the years of inking. So it's not really rough or sketchy. I mean, that's ready to ink. Um, so, I mean, people are welcome to that just as a pencil, or if they want to see me put my inks on it, I'm happy to do that also.
Well,
So,
there's definitely inkers out there who are legends in the industry who cannot draw tight pencils like that. So you definitely are a talented, talented man, sir.
well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Did you ever pencil anything comic book wise, or was it just strictly inks?
Yeah, no, I did some pencil work for the Huntress. I penciled an actual entire Warlord comic that never got published.
Mhm.
Penciled the whole thing. I did some penciling for The Simpsons that got published.
Okay.
I would do an odd pinup or something for Thor. Um, Mike Rockwitz was a great editor back then. Um, but you know, I had to rededicate myself because some of my best friends in the world were Mike Zeck, Michael Golden, guys with just stratospheric talent. And I analyzed what was the difference really between them and me. And I realized, well, a number of things, but it was their commitment to excellence, commitment to studying, commitment to never taking a shortcut, committing to taking chances, committing to let it come out of you. And I realized that's what was missing for me. I'd gotten mentally lazy because inking had become so easy to me. I could almost do it blindfolded. And I had become lazy mentally. So, starting about 12 or 15 years ago, I said, if you're going to take that next step, you're 50 years old. And when are you going to do it? When you're 80? So, I've been, to this day, I still study everything I can,
Mm.
whether it's 100 years ago or to the present. One of the, hi, sweetie. One of the benefits of being an artist as opposed to an athlete is there really is no prime. The prime is when you decide that you've learned enough, and I know I'm never going to get to that point.
Right.
Um, so my goal is to get better every day and to make people happy with what I can do, and that's what I dedicate myself to. It keeps me fairly young-minded.
Yeah.
Uh, I may not look young, but I'm young-minded anyway.
Same here. All the way here for you.
Enjoying yourself? Good.
Here's another piece that Mike has up for offer. Beautiful back row piece. This one's 200.
That's my naughty side. I say naughty, whatever.
That's the midnight sketches, right? When everyone's asleep.
Yeah, well, look, I'm a chauvinist male, and I'm a great admirer of the female form. And what the hell?
Yeah, right. But there's worse things to draw, right?
Yeah, there are many worse things to draw.
Speaking of what are some of the things you hate? Is it? I always get buildings and vehicles and
There's
crowd.
only one thing that I don't like to draw, and for a while I was getting endless requests. The Swamp Thing,
Oh, okay.
because it's a fairly formless tangle of leaves and webs, and not webs, but just leaves and twigs. And I cannot. I mean, those who have done the Swamp Thing have done it brilliantly. And I know many people are wild about the work that's been done on the Swamp Thing. But there's something about the chaotic formlessness of it that just doesn't register with me. So I don't refuse to do the Swamp Thing. I've done it for people, but it's not my choice.
You know,
You'll get 11 demands for Swamp Thing drawings now.
yeah, it's funny. I was talking to Jay Lee once, and I asked him the same question, and his answer for the thing that he liked to draw the most were any kind of monsters. And he said because even if you mess up, it doesn't matter. They'll still ugly.
That's true. That's true.
Just a lot of line work, I guess, when you do Swamp Thing, right?
Well, it's just, see, I'm all about geometry and form and structure. And the Swamp Thing is all not about geometry, form, and structure.
Mm.
And there's some people who are just great at it. It's just not something I'm comfortable with. Maybe if I got really good and drunk one time, I'd be able to do it. But anyway.
Someone's asking how much to ink the Nightwing.
How much extra?
Yeah.
Um,
You don't want to give it to me now. You can give it to me later. I'll text them, but in case you know off the top of your head.
well, here's what I will say is I'm happy to do it since I really like the penciler a lot.
No
but,
complaints about him, right?
but I let Renee handle these things for me, and she is Eva, EVA Inc. at AOL.com. So whoever wants me to ink it, I'm happy to do it. And if you would be kind enough to work with Renee, who goes out of her, that's it. Renee, who goes out of her way to help me. I won't say how long I've known Renee because she would get mad at me, but
She's in her 30s, so it can't be that long, right?
no, she's aged wonderfully. She's a very elegant woman, but I've known her since she was basically pretty much a teenager, kind of.
Oh wow.
But anyway, love you, Renee. You're beautiful.
Excellent. So another question we like to ask is, what was the strangest request you've ever gotten for a commission? Like the weirdest thing that was kind of really out there that made you either not want to do it or made you think twice about doing it.
Well, you get people who are into certain kinds of fetishes,
Mm-hmm.
and that's fine. But not my cup of tea. I mean, I avoid doing that kind of artwork. Um, it's not that I'm a prude or that I want to tell people what they should like or not like, but that's just not my cup of tea. Um,
Yeah.
that's about it. I mean, I draw people's cats and dogs. I don't care what people want, but there's got to be a line where you say I'm not going to cross it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
We get those. We've had some stories about some interesting requests for
yeah, I mean, and they're willing to pay for it. I just I'd rather not do it. I don't. I don't need the money that much that I need to do it. Hi, cutie.
well, here's another pencil piece you did.
Yes.
This piece is 125, and I'm sure Mike will link it if you wanted him to. Again,
Yes, I
we
would
can
be
talk to
happy.
Renee about how to do that. But
I'm always happy to ink my own work because if I ruin it, I know I've ruined my own artwork. So I have no one but myself to blame.
yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I've thought about this. I've never asked anybody though. Um, Back in the '80s, if Jim Aparo, sends you his pages to ink, is there any nervousness to not mess it up? Because obviously, did you make you didn't make copies of things or anything, so you had to get it right the first time, right?
Well, Jim didn't live very far from me, and we became friends.
Hmm.
Um, I make people laugh, but it's the truth. The only thing that I felt was odd about Jim was that all men had a size 22 foot. I don't know why he drew these humongously large feet on everybody. So well, whatever. I mean, that's his style. So I would bring him in a little bit,
Okay.
to like a size 15, but he didn't do that with women. But I mean, the men, everybody had Shaquille O'Neal size feet, no matter who they were. But whatever. It was just, it was, ow, my cat just bit me. Hey, I'm doing live streaming now. You can
Cats
say
are good for
that.
that.
But Jim was a consummate professional. I never had to worry about him turning in any kind of subpar performances ever. Um, he was a great designer, a great storyteller, sequentially fluid, easy to go with. Always a good, strong light source to work with. Um, and he told me once. He said, if I can't ink my own work, Mike, you're the second best person who's ever, you know, who I would choose.
Mhm.
So I thought that was very nice of him to say that. That I was his second favorite inker besides himself.
Well, that's pretty good. Did you ever do you have a collaborative input with some pencilers about what they're doing, or if you see a panel that maybe isn't working, you can say, "Hey, listen, you might want to change this" or something like that. Does that ever happen?
Well, I tell you, when I went to Marvel, but when I spent time with Marvel, it was very discomforting because all the pencilers had these enormous egos, and the editors would make copies of the pencils, and then they would put your inks next to them. And if you changed one fraction of a line, they raised hell about it. And it's like, I mean, you know, I'm not really just a tracer here. I mean, you can get anybody to trace.
Mhm.
I mean, if one eye is here and one eye is there, I mean, I'm supposed to leave it like that. You know,
Yeah.
that's not how Giordano trained me, and that's not how, you know, most legitimate pencilers were. They were interested in telling a story, and if they put the left hand on the right where it was supposed to be right, and I fixed it, you know, they didn't complain. They were happy I caught it. But I mean, back in the early 90s, I just started seeing the handwriting on the wall. It's like, I can't work like this where people are literally looking with a magnifying glass at every single brush or line
Mhm.
stroke I put down. That I couldn't live like that. It was making me miserable. So I had a couple of great editors, like I said, Mike Rockowitz, Renee, but a couple other guys. I'm just not remembering their names. But
Right.
by about 93 or 4, I could just I could just see the industry had changed to the point where people who were classically trained uh, just weren't really appreciated anymore. That's kind of why I went more into animation and doing the company art. And that's when I started learning Photoshop and Illustrator and stuff like that.
Do you
Luckily,
work digitally?
yeah. I mean, I do all my coloring in Photoshop.
Okay.
I mean, I'm willing to hand color, but I mean, I've spent 22 or 3 years in Photoshop. I might as well make use out of it. So I'm pretty good at it. Anyway, hold on, honey. Yeah, put your foot up. You having a good time? Okay. Who's that handsome guy over there? Me?
That's funny. Do you use any? Do you use brush or marker or a little bit of everything when you ink? Or
A little bit of everything.
yeah,
A little bit of everything. Yeah.
it's funny because I like to collect the those big IDW books where they have the original pages printed in them. And I was talking to Larry Stroman, and um, I forget what issue it was. I think it was a Fantastic Four by Jack Kirby, and it said that it didn't say ink; it said embellishments. So I asked Larry what the definition of that was, and he said, "Well, that's a inker basically finishing the piece um, because it's such a loose pencil." Um, do you prefer to work with tighter pencils or loose? As an
It it would depend on the artist. I mean, uh, for instance, I worked a few times with Michael Golden or Mike Zeck,
Mhm.
and you know everything was there. You didn't have to worry about a thing. And I remember working a couple of times with Mike Grell, and it was loose, but it was so gracefully and nicely loose. It was like it's just like flowing down a stream with him. He's one of the I think we've only met once or twice, but he was one of the favorite people I've ever inked because it was like his mind and my mind just had the same desire for a finished product look. So I think I only inked maybe 2 or 3 things Mike Grell ever did, but it was
Mhm.
just right there. People like Michael Golden, God forbid you made a mistake. You'd never hear the end of it. Uh, but he's good. He's good enough to have that attitude. Gene Colan, I found very hard to ink because it was so delicate. Kurt Swan, I found a little difficult to ink, and I learned to appreciate the Murphy Andersons of the world because Kurt was enormously talented, but it was strong yet delicate, and if you just chose the wrong thing to do, you ruined it. But I'm kind of rambling. I tell the story. One of the very first jobs I ever did for DC was the Batman versus the Hulk.
Mhm.
And I did all the Hulk and Bruce Banner stuff, and Dick Giordano did all the Batman stuff, and that was Jose Luis Garcia Lopez.
Mhm.
And I looked at that stuff, and I said, because I don't even think I had turned 24 yet. I was like, oh my God, this is what I have to compete with. I said, I can't be as good as this guy. I mean, Dick laughed. He goes, Mike, don't worry about it. Nobody's as good as him. It's not you. He said, I'm afraid to ink it too. You couldn't improve it. I mean, it was just so unbelievably elegant. But to this day, Garcia Lopez is probably the most impressive person I've ever seen. Just an amazing talent. Um, I was not around during Jack Kirby's heyday, but his magnificence speaks for itself. Um, there's nothing I can add to it. Um,
Do you collect any art or anything like that, or?
well, I collect everything through those big collected reprint books,
Okay.
To this day, I mean, there's not a night that goes by that I don't open something up and just study what everybody from Joe Kubert to Kurt Swan to Ramita to Gil Kane to Kirby to Ditko. I just study what they did. I just try to get into their heads and why they were so great and why they could produce so much and why they could do it month after month after month. Well, what kind of discipline and talent they were.
Was
Just
there one that stood out above all the others for you?
I look at Jack Kirby's stuff from about 1960 to about 1967, and I just say that's enough talent for like 7 people. I mean, you know, the guy was doing 120 pages a month.
Oh my God.
I think he set the record one month in '63. He did like 163 pages, including the first Fantastic Four annual, which was like 40 something pages long.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, where do you get that? I mean, I call him a savant. I don't know what else to call him. He was like Mozart. You just there'll never be another Jack Kirby.
I heard a story about Mark Bagley. I think it was Spider-Man. He went to a twice a month format at one point, and he was doing all the pencils for it. And obviously, apparently not as much as Jack Kirby was, but people were pretty amazed at how many pages he was cranking out to keep up with a bi-monthly book or twice a month book.
Mark is very talented, very very talented, extremely talented. If you're listening, Mark, you're extremely talented.
I don't think Mark's in the room, but hell, you never know. I'm going to show another piece of art here we have available. Here's a beautiful Action Comics sketch cover with some guy named Superman. This one's 150 for anybody that's interested in it.
I was explaining the difficulty in drawing Superman in that, unlike Wolverine or Batman or anybody who can have these certain kinds of expressions, Superman has to have a certain serenity, a certain ultra confident serenity where you know nothing worries him, but at the same time, there's a compassion and a character in him. So I think capturing Superman's face is one of my biggest challenges because you want that look of just, you know, almost godlike strength, but
Mhm.
you don't want arrogance either. Um, so uh, I consider Superman a challenge. Batman is easy to me because you can throw all kinds of lighting and put all kinds of effects on him, and it all works. But Superman, there's just a it's kind of like drawing Charlie Brown, which I used to have to do for what was it, Boom, when Disney was doing Peanuts and Garfield.
Mm.
I did Peanuts and Garfield. That was trying to emulate Charles Schultz. Wow. You don't realize how tough it is to draw something as simple as Charlie Brown and make it look like Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
It's it's daunting. Uh, there are things you don't realize are daunting until you try them, and then you see the underlying genius behind what these people were doing.
Well, speaking of, one of the pieces that you have available here is a Looney Tunes page, and this is an older page, right?
Yeah, that's quite a bit. That's with David Alvarez, who extremely talented, and that's me when I was at the peak of my brush using abilities. That's all delicate brush work, and David's a good guy, and nobody did Looney Tunes art like David. I know he's still active and he's still excellent at it, but that's one of the few original pieces of art I still have. Um, so it is available.
Yeah, this is available. This one is 225 for anybody who's interested. Owning a piece of art that is well over, I don't know, would you think, was it 35 years?
Yeah, it's got to be at least 35 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Published art, inked by a legend. It's a great piece. So this will
am
be
I,
available also.
have I really been doing it this long? Hi. What do you mean, no? Hi.
And like I said, we are going to open up a commission list. I'm going to do it right after the stream today, but I am going to pop up the prices for everybody who's interested right here. So here's the breakdown of the prices: 9 by 12 and 11 by 17. Um, I don't have a cap on the commissions right now, so it's an open list. Uh, as we start getting them, if Mike says no mas, then that'll be the end of it. But these are the options that you guys will have available. I am personally getting. I don't know if Renee told you, I asked for the Death in the Family cover. Um,
Oh, that was you.
yeah,
Okay.
that was me. That's for me. Yes. I like to try to get a piece of art from anybody who comes on the show. So um, it was a perfect piece to ask for. So I can't wait to get it.
I also have a policy where I'm irresistible, aren't I? I also have this policy where, I don't necessarily need, Renee may shoot me for saying this, I don't necessarily need all the money immediately up front because in a way that's like puts this pressure that I have to get it done. So sometimes if you need a couple of paychecks to get through something, we'll work with you. Um, I know not everybody's got all this money to toss around anymore. So
Yeah.
you know, you can take this up with Renee. I don't want her to get
Sure.
mad at me.
Yeah, we talked about it already a little bit.
So,
So no, I understand completely. But yeah, I don't want to keep you much longer. I know you're a caregiver. I just recently took in my father-in-law who has dementia, and it's only been about 2 weeks. It feels like 10 years right now.
you took in who?
My father-in-law who has dementia.
Who has dementia, and it's only been about 2 weeks. It feels like 10 years right now.
Yeah.
How
you doing, Mike?
My father-in-law who has dementia.
I don't know where I'm getting at.
Dementia, and it's only been about 2 weeks. It feels like 10 years.
He's getting some sort of feedback. Mike was gonna help me host, but he thought it was Central Time, not Eastern.
You're late.
I was getting feedback, Mike. Hold on 1 second. Let me put you back on. You got it?
Yep.
All right. I was getting like an echo. I was hearing myself.
Yeah, that was because I had Facebook open. I apologize so much. I was outside in the yard doing some stuff and thought that this was at 7 o'clock Central Time.
Yeah, no,
so I had my phone charging.
I live on the cusp of Central Time. If I went about 40 or 50 miles west, I would be on Central Time. I think it starts around Terre Haute.
Mm-hmm.
So matter of fact, where I live now, they just switched from Central Time about 15 years ago to Eastern Time. That's why in the summer, like if you go outside at 10 o'clock, it's still fairly light out, which is kind of interesting. Throwing a little meteorology there just to keep things going. Did you guys want to, I'm not in a rush, but I don't want to overstay my welcome.
No, we'll stay as long as you'd like. Now that Becker's here, he can ask more questions because I run out of steam.
That's why I'm sure you guys went over a lot already with me being the Johnny come lately.
Well, yeah, we did.
I actually am fortunate enough to have gotten a couple pieces from Mike at a con a few years ago in I think it was like outside at the fairgrounds in like Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
That may be quite possible, yes.
Yeah, I was living in Iowa at the time, and I drove up just to see you, and I had a pre-done piece and got that mailed to me, and then bought a Batman head sketch from you. But yeah, big fan, and also just a huge fan of everything you've done for your wife. You're like the husband we should all like want to be.
Do you hear that? Well, she was always my biggest supporter and always the person who had the most faith in me. And I'm hers forever, and she knows that. Right?
That's awesome. Just a great thing to see this day and age.
No making out in the front in the camera.
But I am a big fan of your career, and I'm sure you guys have touched on a lot of the stuff. But the one I always found interesting that you worked on was Pinky and the Brain.
Walter Carzon and me. Yeah. I still am in contact with Walter once in a while. That's awesome. He's a great cartoonist. And that was a pretty good stretch there on Pinky and the Brain.
Animaniacs. I was a huge fan.
Yeah, that's when I had that was the peak of my brush wielding facility back then, and I think I could handle a brush as well as anybody at one time. No longer, but about 12,000 pages later, I guess.
Oof.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, those were good times. Those were good times. I worked with a lot of very talented people.
And Ken, I don't know how the claims are going for this, but I would also like to get on that. I saw you posted that the commission post is live.
Yeah. We're not doing claims tonight because Mike,
Right.
he's not able to sketch. Did have some finished pieces I offered up. I'm going to put those on the page, and I just put the commission list up live. So if anybody wants
Cool.
anything like that, just put it in the comments what you want, and then I will get to you.
Yeah, Ken has Renee's email address, and she will handle any and all questions and requests. And
Yeah.
it makes me happy to draw for people. And whatever anybody wants, other than the Swamp Thing, I'm happy to do.
Yeah, I was saying I actually got asked for a the Death in a Family cover because he does cover recreations too.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. So that's gonna be fun.
Well, I feel like I came in pretty late. I don't know how long you guys planned on doing this, but I am glad I got to see you at least virtually here, and I'm glad to see that everyone's doing well tonight.
No, we are.
Good.
We had a hi. You having fun? Good. No, I'm happy to be here, and I appreciate the time and exposure. And I posted the link on my Facebook page, so hopefully there's a lot of people peeking in and seeing if I'm a big a pompous ass as I appear to be on Facebook. So yes, I am indeed a pompous ass.
And one heck of a mustache.
Yes, my large gray Mark Twain mustache. I have to at least appear to look that I have wisdom and intelligence, and the glasses and the mustache
It completes the
completes the illusion that there's actually things that are working up here, which may or may not be true.
There's a fine line between pompous and confidence. So
I'm just jealous. All I can pull off is well, I call it a goatee, but I think it's actually a Van Dyke.
It is a Van Dyke.
Yeah, I think that's the common misconception. But otherwise, everything else is patchy. I can't go full beard, and just the mustache, too wispy.
My problem is I could probably grow a beard in a week, except it's all white. I don't want to look like Santa Claus. I mean, the mustache still, you can get away with a gray and white mustache, but I look like a hobo if I don't shave for more than a few days.
last year during COVID, I did a no shave kind of thing for a while, and here I have white hair. My beard came in red. I'm an Irish guy. Then as it grew longer, it turned white, and then I said, I look like Santa Claus, and I cut it off.
I did the same thing during COVID because I was working from home, so I let the patchiness come out, and then one day they said we were going to have to start being on video in our meetings that we were attending, and I was like, well, I better shave. That was awful.
Well, you're lucky you're still dark.
Yeah.
I miss those days. Oh.
Yeah, my kids will sometimes they'll see older pictures of me and they'll say, "Oh, Daddy, you had black hair." Yeah, before kids.
That's for sure.
You guys turned me gray.
Kids will make you go gray.
That must be my secret. No kids.
It'll happen to you
That
fast.
shows you how smart you really are.
My wife would argue with that. I'm glad she's not in earshot.
Was there anybody you would have liked to have inked that you didn't get a chance to? Besides, say Kirby. I mean,
Jack Kirby.
yeah.
He was still active a bit when I first started, but boy, what it would have been like in the 60s. Vinnie Coletta has no idea how lucky he was to have that unbelievable stretch of just, no matter how old I get, I look at that stuff and I'm just so amazed. Plus he was drawing Westerns, and I mean, it just, whatever. My jealousy and envy of that man always shows through. And the two times I met him, his health was starting to fail, but he was just the sweetest guy, and a little bitty fella back by that time. But he just looked you right in the eye, and he was happy to meet you. He didn't care he was Jack Kirby. It didn't mean anything to him. It was just a pleasure, Stan Lee, I only met once, and I hear he was a really pretty much down-to-earth person too. I think Mike Zek knew Stan pretty good. I only met him once at a Marvel Christmas party when I was trying to fill my dish with as much sushi as possible. Before anybody could stop me. But anyway. Remember we used to go to Marvel Christmas parties? Yeah.
Because you would have worked for Marvel for what, about late 80s into the early 90s?
Yeah, from about 89 to 93, something like that, yeah. Were you the only inker on She-Hulk 50? Andy, you overestimate my ability to remember things that are 30 years or more ago. I'd have to see She-Hulk 50. Renee was probably the editor on She-Hulk. I know I did a few of them. It was fun to draw a big, beautiful green woman. That was pretty cool.
I think that issue had a bunch of different pencilers. That's why he asked if.
Yeah, that's the one that everybody worked on, it seems like.
You guys know better than me. I'm telling you, 12,000 pages kind of all end up blending together. I think me and Joe Rubenstein hold the record for putting our imprimatur on the most comic art pages in a given period of time. So anyway, well, fellas, I know that you've been so kind, and I appreciate the exposure. And my wife is getting a tiny bit restless.
Sure.
So
completely understandable.
But it was a pleasure. And if any of you on Facebook are looking in, as I asked you to, hi, and let me know what you thought of my performance tomorrow. But please use nice words when making comments. But anyway, Becker, is that your first name?
No, last name.
Okay. Well, it was nice seeing both of you. and I thank you very much. And I hope I kept you reasonably. Thank you, Anika. I appreciate you having me on, and
We appreciate you coming on. I mean, it's an honor to not only have you on the show, but to meet you and letting us offer up commissions to people who patronize my page. It's really an honor. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
well, thank you for having me. And you're welcome, Andy, and Scott. But anyway, it was a pleasure, and anytime I could be of any help or use, or you want me to bore you again, I'd be happy to do so. Thank you for sharing such fascinating stories.
Stephen's actually in the UK, so it's probably like 1 a.m. there. He stayed up for this.
Go to bed, Stephen.
Go to bed, Stephen.
And my first name is Mike, so I love all these praises saying Mike in the comments. I'll piggyback.
All right,
Again,
fellas,
thank you very much.
What do you say, Tracy? Shall we go? Can you say good night to everybody? There you go, sweetheart.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We will see you on Monday with Jim Shooter. So don't miss out for that one.
I love Jim. Jim's a good guy. He regales me with stories that it's a good thing I keep my mouth shut, because I could get a lot of people in trouble. Your secrets are safe with me, Jim.
There you go. Well, thanks, everybody. And make sure you get on that commission list while it's still open. And
Yes.
Thanks again, Mike. Thanks, Becca, for coming on. And
Late.
we will see you guys again soon. Thanks.
Okay. You guys take care. Thank you.